Road conditions turn dangerous in Joplin as the winter storm continues to bring snow and ice.
Minute by minute, we get a little closer to the snow coming to an end, but we're not going to be able to escape the bitter cold nor the wind. The latest from the Skywatch Weather Center.
And we take a closer look at how some area agencies are helping the homeless during this extreme winter weather.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Good morning and welcome to the KOAM Morning News. It is 5 a.m. I'm Tanya Bach. We'll get to those stories in just a moment, but first, let's go to Michael Hayslip. It's been some fun weather out there.
Little by little, though, this is a 6-hour loop. Goes to show you how everything is eventually beginning to die off to the far south or the far west right there. Let's go ahead and take a look at our current conditions as we stand, because we're still getting some very good snow along that dividing line for the central and most of southwest Missouri, northeast Oklahoma, and northwest Arkansas as well. As a matter of fact, kind of remove that graphic. Look at the street light right there. Because of the wind and how hard it's blowing, we're still coming down sideways over 7th and range line. Accumulation numbers sitting around 4 to 5 inches right now. We've got a wind chill of -4s, the north-northeast wind gusts up to 26 miles per hour. We're slipping down into single digits here as we approach sunrise with wind chills, pretty much negative numbers all abound. Meaning even when the snow does come to an end in your neck of the woods, it's not going to go anywhere, as we've already got a thin layer of ice built up from the traffic that we had yesterday. Some 100 million Americans in winter weather watches, warnings, and advisories right now. And that includes us, as our winter weather warning, still indicated in the pink, will last all the way into the midnight hour. You'll notice, though, our far western and northern counties where we're seeing the snow begin to ease up, those have been allowed to expire, those warnings at least, for the duration of our day. Say we probably got about 2.5, 3 more hours of snow before it completely departs our highlighted counties. And a weather trend that is going to be brutally cold after that, with temperatures that are really not going to give up until we get into the weekend. Overnight lows down to 6 and 4. We'll be anticipating it feeling, say, about, anywhere from 8 to 12 below zero.
Woo. Those are some cold lows.
Good luck with the pipes.
And we say that with sincerity.
Yep.
Yes. All right. Thanks, Michael.
I'm already sitting over here with like sweaty palms thinking, come on, kitchen, hold up. Hold up.
We are looking at video out of the Fort Scott area. The earlier round of snow and ice left behind a few inches of precipitation there. So just a reminder, the safest thing you can do right now is to stay off the roads. From Nevada, Missouri comes this video. As you can see, communities up in the northern part of our viewing area have been experiencing a decent amount of snow. ODOT workers have been out making sure the roads are safe. ODOT is asking drivers to help keep the roads safe for those workers.
Those routes are, they're pretty much standard for every storm. The turnpike is handled by the Oklahoma Turnpike Authority, and the Will Rogers Turnpike has a crew for each end of the turnpike that will go out there and treat it as well.
Last week at the Cox-Barton County Hospital, preparations for the winter storm began last week. Now, some of those plans included transforming rooms at the Medical One clinic into bedrooms for staff who may need to stay. They've also made space in the hospital as well for staff who feel it may be too dangerous to leave the hospital during the storm. Officials say they anticipated staff staying in the hospital overnight. Joplin road conditions have been bad and things have only gotten worse. The Joplin Police Department wants people to remember a few things if you do have to get out on the roads. And one tip, only call 911 for emergency situations to reduce strain on the emergency workers.
You're involved in a crash and of course there's injuries, please dial 911. That's the quickest way to get EMS, law enforcement to the scene as quickly as possible. We just ask that, if it's not an emergency situation, there are no injuries, just dial our non-emergency number, the 417-623-3131, and we'll make sure and get a call entered and get an officer there to you just as quickly as we can.
Another tip, increase your follow distance from what it normally is, as you may have trouble braking. Also, begin braking earlier to guarantee you have enough time. With freezing temperatures comes the risk of hypothermia for those who have to be outside. This risk increases significantly for those who don't have a place to call home. The Carthage Crisis Center and Watered Gardens in Joplin are both open as warming centers and will remain open while it remains cold. Anyone outside for an extended period can suffer from hypothermia. Experts say one of the key warning signs is confusion or someone not acting like themselves. They add that alone is a danger, as the person suffering from hypothermia may not even be aware.
If you're just starting to get a little bit incoherent and you can get inside and get warmed up, that's excellent. But if you're not seeing significant changes or you're getting worse, definitely seek medical attention.
We'll have more on hypothermia risk and what the warming center means to one homeless man. It's 5:07.
If you're wondering what it feels like outside, a whole bunch of negative numbers right now as the snow continues to blow. And not only that, it's the threat of the blowing snow, reducing visibility across our roadways, whether it be police departments or state highway patrol, urging everybody to stay inside if you can. Give you an idea of what we've got on the Skywatch Storm Tracker. Even as we begin to clear out to the west, want to pay special attention to everybody who lives down and around and south of I-44, because you'll notice as it clears off to the west end of the north, even through the afternoon and evening hours, we hold on to another additional 1 inch of accumulation. Really moving up from Tulsa up through Miami, should skirt south of Joplin, and then temperatures overnight dipping back down to single digits.
That's a look at this morning's top stories in weather in our first 7 minutes. Coming up on the KOAM Morning News, Brian Flores sues the NFL for its hiring practices alongside claims of racism. Plus, the situation with Russia and Ukraine continues to grow more tense with no end in sight. And the blood crisis grows as there's still not enough donors to match what hospitals need for patients who are in dire need of blood transfusions. You're watching the KOAM Morning News. More real news in the morning. We'll be right back.
Wednesday marked National Signing Day for high school football players all across the country. Pittsburgh State Gorillas announcing their 2022 recruiting class, a class that consists of 30 players, 20 high school recruits, 10 of those transfers. Among the high school group, Pitt State bringing in 3 of our 4-staters, Frontenac's Lane Franklin, Girard's Brecken Troike, and Columbus standout Cody Schalk. Here's Pitt State head coach Brian Wright on those 3 local kids and the importance of continuing to bring in the best 4-state talent.
I think it's really important. You know, those guys are invested into this place, into this community, and they've been coming to Pitt State games for a long time, and they always just seem to bring something a little bit extra to your program, and it's vital that we continue to recruit those local guys. And you know, the good thing is we got to see a lot of them. We got to see them play. We saw Cody at camp all summer as well, so really got to get a good evaluation of them. And then you see Frontenac and Girard go deep into the playoffs, and you get to see them play some extra games. So a lot of live evaluations on those guys. And, you know, again, I think all 3 of those guys will come help the Gorillas.
As far as Missouri Southern, its recruiting class going heavy on defense. 8 players each at defensive line and defensive back. Lions 2022 class consisting of 37 high schoolers and 4 transfers. 3 of those high school players, they are local guys. We got Joplin's Jet Steele, Lamar's Mason Gastel, and Trace Wilhite. Head coach Atiba Bradley taking a moment to talk about Wilhite and what the Lamar players bring to the Missouri Southern program.
He's a football phenom, does a great job as a off-the-ball tight end. I'm excited for Trace to bring his physicality. You know, Lamar has for a long time had a culture of toughness, and there's not a lot of difference between, I don't even know, the old school Big 8 and the MIAA. I mean, it's really good football. It's blue collar football. And Trace embodies all of that.
Of course, we know the Chiefs saw their season come to an end in the AFC Championship game over the weekend. Chiefs falling to the Bengals 27-24 in overtime, ending the season and now beginning the offseason. Kansas City 12-5 this year, won the AFC West for the 6th consecutive year. Now turning their attention to the offseason and got some big-time players who are big-time free agents. That includes safety Tyrann Mathieu, the Honey Badger. Been a Pro Bowler in all 3 seasons he's played in Kansas City. He's a priority, as well as the rest of the defense and linemen on both sides of the ball.
I don't think it's far-fetched to think that we'll, prioritize, the lines like we always do, and knowing that we have a good offensive line in place, and the defensive line is probably the most makes the most sense, and through the defensive backfield and what have you. But I think the defensive side is one that we'll probably focus on right off the bat.
Well, college basketball, Missouri Tigers trying to find a little traction right now in the SEC. Losers of 3 straight, entering yesterday with a 2-5 record in conference play. At home against Florida, got moved up 6 hours because of the weather, and while it did go back and forth the entire second half, it is Florida knocking down 2 free throws with 8 seconds left, and then Missouri missing a 3-pointer as time expires. Missouri's second 1-point loss in the last week alone. Ronnie DeGray III, he came off the bench, scored a team-high 13 points in this one for the Tigers. A former head coach is accusing the NFL and 3 different teams of racism. Brian Flores, he was fired by the Miami Dolphins last month. He claims in a lawsuit the NFL has failed to create a fair hiring process. Bradley Blackburn has the latest on the lawsuit. Bradley's in New York.
Brian Flores says he is suing the NFL because it is time for change.
I think we're at a fork in the road right now. We're either going to keep it the way it is, or we're going to go in another direction.
The former Miami Dolphins head coach appeared today with his lawyers on CBS Mornings. His lawsuit claims the NFL has failed to create a fair hiring process. Today, the league has 3 head coaches of color, including 1 black man. Flores believes minorities are not getting a fair shot.
And in a lot of cases are as qualified, more qualified, and quite frankly better than their white counterparts.
In response, the NFL says diversity is core to everything we do, and there are few issues on which our clubs and our internal leadership spend more time. We will defend against these claims, which are without merit. Flores says he received a text message last month from Patriots head coach Bill Belichick 3 days before he was interviewing for the Giants head coaching position. Belichick offered his congratulations, but he thought he was texting Brian Daboll, who eventually got the Giants job.
How did that make you feel, knowing that you were walking into an interview where a decision might have already been made?
It was a range of emotions, humiliation, disbelief.
In a statement, the Giants said, Flores was in the conversation to be our next head coach until the 11th hour. Ultimately, we hired the individual we felt was most qualified to be our next head coach. Flores also accuses the Dolphins of offering him $100,000 for every game he lost during his first season to position the team for a high draft pick.
To attack the integrity of the game, that's what I felt was happening in that instance, and I wouldn't stand for it.
The Dolphins say it is incorrect to imply the team acted in a manner inconsistent with the integrity of the game. Flores says he is still hoping to coach in the NFL. Bradley Blackburn, CBS News, New York.
The lawsuit also claims Brian Flores was forced to undergo what he called a sham interview with the Broncos in 2019. That's when then Broncos general manager John Elway, President Joe Ellis, and others showed up to interview Flores an hour later than his scheduled interview. Still to come on the KOAM Morning News, the head of the FBI issues a warning about China's increasing danger to the United States, and to check on our snowy, wind-blown forecast when the KOAM Morning News returns. Just past 5:17 on this Thursday morning. Still going to say the best thing to do is to stay off the roads, period. While it's not raining or snowing as heavily as what it was at certain points in times yesterday, check out that wind as it just blows it sideways in from the north. That, of course, a live look over 7th and Rangeline. Give you an idea of our current radar. We'll remove the cloud cover, get a better idea of exactly what we've got snow-wise as we see it moving from west to east. Now, everybody down to the south, you're actually going to be pretty consistent with the snowfall for the rest of the day. We start to see that break there about from Highway 400 up to the north. That should just about be done. But it will continue to roll through northeast Oklahoma, southern southwest Missouri, and even the eastern portion of southwest Missouri here for the next couple of hours. So our snow depth numbers will continue to grow up in that northwestern section. That's about 6 to 8 inches there in the darker blue, 4 to 6 inches there in that medium blue. And like I said, we got a while to go before we are said and done. That being said, don't forget you can always go to KOAMnewsnow.com, KOAMnewsnow.com. But we don't have a lot of places open. Let's put it that way. But we've got your complete list of closings, whether it be organizations, government buildings, and of course, our colleges and our schools. Here's what it feels like outside, a whole bunch of negative numbers, and the blowing wind is not only creating visibility problems for those of you that have to get on the road, but also too, we're getting some pretty good drifts that are sticking around as it comes in for the north-northwest right there, gusting up to about 25 miles per hour. Let's go ahead and put future track into motion. Once again, when we get to the afternoon hours, I think the key factor is really along and south of I-44 because we continue to pick up moisture coming out of OKC and Tulsa, and that's why that snow sticks around. Probably another additional inch of snow there along and south of the highway. Most of it should skirt south of Joplin before we finally clear off. Once we do clear off, the cold, well, that poses problem number 2 right there because our overnight lows are single digits and we really don't get consistently above the freezing mark. Saturday and Sunday, not too bad, but it's going to take a while to get rid of everything that we've accumulated in the past 48 hours. Time now to turn our attention to the KOAM News Now Facebook page and our morning Insta poll. President Biden sending thousands more U.S. troops to Europe to support NATO forces near Ukraine. Administration hoping this move sends a strong signal to Russian President Vladimir Putin. Naomi Rockham, she has more on tensions in Eastern Europe.
2,000 U.S.-based troops will soon leave Fort Bragg, North Carolina for Poland and Germany. Another 1,000 forces will move from Germany to Romania, all to prove U.S. commitment to NATO allies.
It's important that we send a strong signal to Mr. Putin and, frankly, to the world that NATO matters to the United States. It matters to our allies.
The decision comes as new satellite imagery reveals a Russian troop buildup in areas bordering Ukraine.
There is one aggressor here. That aggressor is Russia. They are the ones who have gathered tens of thousands of troops on the border.
The new developments come after the Pentagon placed more than 8,000 U.S. troops on heightened alert last week. A Russian deputy foreign minister called the troop movements destructive and said they will increase military tension. But the White House says the moves are not based on any new signs of Russian aggression.
This is not troops that will go into Ukraine. They're not fighting in Ukraine. This is us. This is the United States abiding by our commitments under Article 5 to support, reassure our partners in the region.
The Biden administration also has stopped calling a Russian invasion imminent, since officials say Putin's intentions are still uncertain. Naomi Rockham, CBS News.
Biden administration also stressing that these recent troop movements are not permanent. In the meantime, reports on a new phone call between Putin and British Prime Minister Boris Johnson showed no signs of progress in the region. Our question to you this morning, and our something to talk about, do you think the Russia-Ukraine situation can be solved with diplomacy? You can either log on via the Facebook page, go directly to the poll, KOAMnewsnow.com/vote, and we'll show our QR code here a little bit later. We've got to get to break, come back, do Health Watch, got some new storm reports to pass along right after this.
Topping Health Watch this morning, the pandemic is continuing to cause a massive blood supply shortage. Kevin Cork has more on the potential health emergencies the crisis is causing for hospitals and patients nationwide.
Every 2 seconds, someone in the U.S. needs blood.
The American Red Cross says a critical blood supply shortage is putting hospitals across the country in crisis mode.
We have, in some instances, less than a day's supply of blood on hand.
The nonprofit humanitarian organization is responsible for providing at least 40% of the nation's blood. But now, those levels are so low, officials say some hospitals are postponing medical procedures.
It is forcing doctors to make a very difficult decision about who receives a blood transfusion and who must wait until there are additional products available.
I've heard from a number of hospitals that they've had to delay surgeries because they didn't have enough blood on hand.
Healthcare professionals blame pandemic restrictions and closures for the rapid decline in blood drives. And data from the Red Cross is highlighting the issue, showing college students made up 25% of blood donors in 2019, with that number plummeting to just 10% in 2021.
There's no blood drives at schools because schools were locked down. There's not as many blood drives at work because there's no work going on at offices.
But for those who are still going out and donating, they say it's an easy process with incredible payoffs.
Stay here for an hour or two, and then afterwards you go home knowing that you could have potentially saved a life.
This is the worst blood shortage in more than a decade. In fact, officials say it'll take months for supplies to return to their normal levels. I'm Kevin Cork, Fox News.
Night lights might scare off the monsters under our beds, but they also keep sleep away as well. A study from the University of Colorado at Boulder found exposure to light is detrimental to a child's sleep. Researchers found even slight exposure to dim light before bed impacts the brain's production of melatonin, which helps us fall asleep. Melatonin is a sign of our circadian rhythm, and even slight exposure to any light can throw that off by tricking our brain into thinking it's daytime. Sensitivity to light seems to be greater in children due to youngsters having larger eyes, which take in more light. February is American Heart Month, and several different foods can help you stay heart healthy. Nutrition experts and dietitians say leafy greens like spinach and kale have chemicals that can regulate your blood pressure. Extra virgin olive oil helps reduce cardiovascular disease. Avocado can help lower your bad cholesterol numbers. Berries have antioxidants to help stress. Beans can lower your blood pressure and inflammation. And salmon can help reduce cardiac arrhythms and sudden death risk. That's a look at some of today's top health stories. You're watching the KOAM Morning News.
The snowfall is still dominating our major thoroughfares of I-44 and I-49. Latest storm report coming out of South Coffeyville, 4 inches, and it's still snowing. We're easily in that 4 to 6 just about everywhere. We've got some places that have already picked up about 6 to 8. It's going to be a little bit difficult to measure later on today because of the amount of wind that we've had and the drifts that it's creating. You know, you try to find that flat spot and measure it, and by that point in time, you've got a 4-foot drift sitting over in the corner. Here's our temperatures right now. Best thing to do if you can is to stay inside today, not only because of the blowing snow and the travel conditions, but also too, it's dangerously cold as we see temperatures right now in between 10 and 16 degrees, wind chills in between about 4 to 6 below zero. Down to the south, this is what we'll be looking at this afternoon and the evening because we've got some additional snowfall along and south of I-44. Pick up another 1 to 2 inches from Thursday night into Friday morning. As a matter of fact, the winter storm warning has been extended through 3 a.m. for our counties in northeast Oklahoma and northwest Arkansas. Everybody else set to expire at our original time of midnight tonight, and then just get ready to layer up, not only during the daytime on Friday, but especially if you have to be out and about. Let's try not to be Friday night into Saturday. Be back right after this.
At Affordable Dentures and Implants, that
road conditions turn dangerous in Joplin as the winter storm continues to bring snow and ice.
We've got a shift in our winter storm warnings. While some sections of the 4 states have now been relieved of it, others have been extended. We'll have the latest from the Skywatch Weather Center.
And we'll take a closer look at how some area agencies are helping the homeless during this extreme winter weather.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Good morning and welcome to the KOAM Morning News. It is 5:30. I'm Tanya Bach. We'll get to those stories in just a moment. But first, let's go to Michael Hayslip, who's tracking everything in the Skywatch Weather Center.
We'll jump to the radar here in just a second, but I wanted to point out the winter storm warning indicated in pink for the majority of the 4 states remains in place until midnight tonight. But you'll also notice, too, that out on the far left-hand side right there throughout southeast Kansas and the northern portion of southeast Kansas, it's actually been lifted and then kind of nestles up against a wind chill advisory through central Kansas. However, if we drop down into northeast Oklahoma and Benton County in northwest Arkansas, it's now been extended all the way until 3 a.m. Friday, an indicator that we're going to see additional snowfall down to the south. There we are blowing sideways over 7th and Rangeline. The best thing to do right now is to stay off the roads. Road crews working as diligently and as quickly as they can, but when it comes down sideways, with winds of 30 miles per hour, it is hard to keep up. Here's what the Skywatch Storm Tracker looks like. Take the cloud cover off. You can tell it's a diagonal line. So once again, the majority of the snow is done for the west and the north, eventually clearing off in the central, but we've still got a lot more to go along and south of I-44. bitterly cold when you walk outside. Wind chills in the negative. These are actual temperatures in between about 10 and 16 degrees. As we approach the noon hour, there's a little break, but now watch the bottom of your screen as it'll roll into Thursday night all the way into Friday morning. So we'll talk about an additional 1 to 2 inches along and south of I-44, and then we just got to buckle in for single-digit overnight lows for Thursday and Friday, even after our snow's completely done Friday morning. Still sitting 6 to 8. Still sitting 6 to 8, just about everywhere. So,
yeah, that's it's hard to fathom how cold it's getting.
Even down to the south, where our accumulation number is about 4 inches right now. That was our latest one out of South Coffeyville. Got to remember, they've got another 1 to 2 to go.
Yeah.
For the evening into tonight.
All right. Be safe out there, everyone. All right, this video is coming out of the Fort Scott area. The earlier round of snow and ice left behind a few inches of precipitation there. So just a reminder, the safest thing you can do right now is to stay off the roads. From Nevada, Missouri comes this video. As you can see, communities up in the northern part of our viewing area have been experiencing a decent amount of snow. Like Michael said, it's still coming. Joplin road conditions have been bad and things have only gotten worse. The Joplin Police Department wants people to remember a few things if you do have to get out on the roads. One tip, only call 911 for emergency situations. That will reduce strain on emergency workers.
The crash and of course there's injuries, please dial 911. That's the quickest way to get EMS, law enforcement to the scene as quickly as possible. We just ask that, if it's not an emergency situation, there are no injuries, just dial our non-emergency number, the 417-623-3131, and we'll make sure and get a call entered and get an officer there to you just as quickly as it can.
Another tip, increase your follow distance from what it normally is, as you may have trouble braking. Also, begin braking much earlier to guarantee you have enough time. With the extreme cold, hypothermia is a significant concern for anyone outdoors, especially the homeless. KOAM's Chris Warner tells us what some of the warning signs are and how local shelters are helping out.
The extreme cold can lead to a number of medical issues, including hypothermia. Luke Spain with Cox Health says while the signs can vary quite a bit, there are key symptoms to watch out for.
Really serious signs of hypothermia are going to include things like loss of memory, fumbling things, poor coordination. People become quite self-unaware, if you will. So they're not really going to notice a lot of those things happening. So it's really important to catch those kinds of signs early.
Spain adds there are some steps you can take to stay safe if you have to be outdoors.
Wrapping up, wearing layers. Layers is really important. Wool, things that are going to keep you warm. Cover your hands, cover your head, cover your neck. Wearing a scarf, wearing a hat, wearing gloves are all really important things, and stay dry.
Spain says it's also important to know when to seek medical attention.
If you're just starting to get a little bit incoherent and you can get inside and get warmed up, that's excellent. But if you're not seeing significant changes or you're getting worse, definitely seek medical attention.
That's why warming centers like watered gardens are essential.
When the temperatures get that low, it's just impossible to stay warm outside, impossible to find shelter to keep yourself warm. Even if you got several layers of clothes and blankets, you're not going to get warm in this kind of temperatures. So this is really, this is about survival and about keeping people alive.
Watered Gardens opens their lobby when the wind chill drops below 20 degrees, and it remains open 24 hours a day until warmer weather moves in, which is something those in the homeless community like William McGully really appreciate.
It's awesome. It's real good, like on days like this where your shoes get wet and you can't get warm after you get wet.
In Joplin, Chris Warner, KOAM News.
Carthage Crisis Center is also open as a 24-hour warming center. The Salvation Army in Joplin is also open as a warming center during the regular hours of operation. Here's Michael with a look at your forecast.
Here we are, blowing sideways over 7th and Range Line. Hazardous travel conditions throughout the entire 4 states, even in places where the snow is beginning to taper off. To give you an idea about that wind, it's causing massive drifting as well. And as far as the snow goes, like I said, we're beginning to taper off to the west and to the north. Still going to hold on to some light snow all the way to about sunrise for southeast Kansas. But I want to warn everybody along and south of I-44 and the eastern part of southwest Missouri, you still got quite a ways to go because this is going to move through the afternoon hours, especially down to the south, another 1 to 2 inches of accumulation before we finally clear this thing out overnight in to Friday morning. Time now to turn our attention to our KOAM News Now Instapoll and our Something to Talk About this morning as we're discussing Russia-Ukraine. Soon thousands of U.S.-based troops will leave Fort Bragg in North Carolina and their destination, Germany and Poland. While the Pentagon placed more than 8,000 U.S. troops on heightened alert, the White House assured Russia that the moves are not based on any new signs of Russian aggression. That brings us to today's Morning Talker. Do you think diplomacy will resolve the Russia-Ukraine situation? Right now, we are split right down the middle between our yeses and our nos. You can always keep up with us each and every morning and weigh in. You can either go to KOAMnewsnow.com/vote, connect to us via our Facebook page, KOAM News Now, or if you've got your phone handy, maybe you've been outside taking pictures of snow, or the kids made a snowman, that could be too. You can always pop a picture right there of our QR code. That's right, all you have to do is on your phone, use your camera, take a picture of that, and it will deliver you to our poll each and every morning.
I want to see some snowman pictures and we can show them at noon. That would be great. Send them in. If it's not too cold to be out there for your kids. Be safe first. All right, that's a look at our top news stories. Coming up this half hour in the KOAM Morning News, animal shelters nationwide are facing overcrowding. And this is an alarming trend. We'll have why this is becoming an issue. Plus, a Game of Thrones studio opens its doors for fans to take a peek and get up close and personal with the series. We'll have the latest. You're watching the KOAM Morning News. More real news in the morning. We'll be right back.
Girard Medical Center is one of the area's best places to work. Are you a nurse? Does caring...
Topping World Watch, there is a new warning from the head of the FBI about China's increasing danger to the U.S. This comes as congressional Democrats are preparing to take on Beijing as China welcomes the world for the Olympics. Chad Pergram reports.
There is just no country that presents a broader threat to our ideas, our innovation, and our economic security than China.
FBI Director Christopher Wray called Chinese tactics, quote, insidious and brazen. He says China now poses a more dangerous threat to the U.S. than the USSR ever did.
China is an economic power on a level the Soviets could never have dreamed of being.
China rising has Democrats pivoting. Stymied on voting bills and Build Back Better, Democrats need a win. So House Democrats aim to pass a bill which they say boosts America in the fight against China.
This package will accelerate U.S. production of semiconductor chips, strengthen the supply chain to make more goods in America.
The bill comes just as the Winter Games begin in Beijing.
China's been eating our lunch for a long time. Democrats see an opening here where they can not only help the economy, but also score some political points heading into the midterm.
But House Republicans contend the bill is weak on China.
Democrats are very talented at the bait and switch. They name a bill something that it doesn't have anything to do with.
Republicans say the bill is sprinkled with nods to progressives since they failed on Build Back Better.
Gives woke universities several billion dollars to do research.
Republicans say few of their members will vote yes.
The amendment as amended is agreed to.
But the companion bill sailed through the Senate last June with 68 yeas, 20 of which came from the GOP.
Republicans seem to reflexively oppose anything that Nancy Pelosi brings to the floor, which is unfortunate. In the Senate, we have a much more serious tradition of bipartisanship.
House Democrats say the Senate bill is too focused on countering China rather than boosting manufacturing. The Senate opposes the House's climate provisions. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer says the gaps can be bridged. On Capitol Hill, Chad Pergram, Fox News.
Well, a Game of Thrones studio tour opens in Northern Ireland this week. The studio located in Bainbridge, where much of the show was filmed. Visitors will be welcome to the world of Westeros and get the chance to get up close and personal with some of the show's iconic props, costumes, and set pieces. Those involved in the studio say fans will not be disappointed. I just want to know, Will there be dragons? I'm serious. Somebody let me know. Well, the Duchess of Cambridge takes on a new title, Royal Patron of English Rugby, a role previously held by her brother-in-law, Prince Harry. Well, he left. Kate Middleton was given the patronage by Queen Elizabeth to become the figurehead for Rugby Football League and the Rugby Football Union. You go, girl. The honorary titles were returned by Harry when he exited from the royal family in 2020. Kate celebrated her new role by showing off her athletic skills. She was seen smiling and laughing as she practiced throwing and kicking the ball with members of England's women's rugby team at London's Twickenham Stadium. The Duchess was also lifted for a line-out during the training session. Nobody better bust out her tooth. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un and his wife Ri Sol-ju attend a musical concert to mark Lunar New Year's Day. This is Ri's first public appearance in nearly 5 months. The couple received thunderous cheers from the audience as they arrived at Pyongyang's Mansudae Art Theater on Tuesday. According to state TV, the artist performed songs and dances to demonstrate the, quote, single-minded unity of North Koreans and their devotion to build a socialist country. Footage also showed that the Supreme Leader's aunt, Kim Jong-hyun, was also present at the event. Her husband was infamously executed by Kim for treason and corruption in 2013. This was her first public appearance in 2 years. That's a look at some of your biggest headlines from around the world. We'll be right back with the news you need to know before you head out the door.
Downstream Casino
Sponsored by KOAM.
Here's a check of today's top headlines, the news you need to know before you head out the door. This video comes out of the Fort Scott area. The earlier round of snow and ice left behind a few inches of precipitation there. So just a reminder, the safest thing you can do right now is to stay off the roads. From Nevada, Missouri comes this video. As you can see, communities up in the northern part of our viewing area have been experiencing a decent amount of snow. In Joplin, road conditions have been bad and things have only gotten worse. The Joplin Police Department wants people to remember a few things if you do have to get on the roads. One tip, only call 911 for emergency situations to reduce strain on emergency workers. And with freezing temperatures comes the risk of hypothermia for those who have to be outside. This risk increases significantly for those who do not have a place to call home. Carthage Crisis Center and Water Gardens in Joplin are both open as warming centers and will remain open while it remains cold. Anyone outside for an extended period can suffer from hypothermia. Experts say one of the key warning signs is confusion or someone not acting like themselves. They add that alone is a danger as the person suffering from hypothermia may not even be aware. That's a check of today's top headlines, the news you need to know before you head out the door.
Tanya, you were talking about those Joplin road conditions deteriorating. Here's a live look over 7th and Rangeline, where you can tell it's just coming down sideways right there, and because of the wind combined with the ongoing snow cover, our road crew is doing their best, but Mother Nature kind of winning this battle. As far as what we're looking at with our snowfall, majority of it will remain down to the south. We're already tapering off to the west and to the north, just about done with that. But one thing nobody's going to be able to escape, number one, the high winds. Number two, the brutally cold temperatures right now in between about 10 and 16 degrees with negative wind chills. We're going to break down our duration of snowfall and take a look at our latest depth numbers, snow depth numbers, when we return here in just a little bit.
Do you play at casinos?
Animal shelters nationwide are reporting an alarming trend. Staffing shortages and a dip in adoptions is leading to overcrowding. Fox's Haley Winslow has the story.
They're our best friends. They know when we're sad, are always loyal, and happy to see us. And they need our help.
We're facing a crisis in America's animal shelters because there are 100,000 more cats and dogs sitting in America's shelters right now compared to the same time last year.
The reason, more animals going into shelters and not as many coming out. Shelters are suffering staffing shortages and adoptions are down.
Now everybody, thankfully, is back to work and sort of back to real life, and I think a lot of people realize that they can't handle the commitment of having a pet.
Best Friends Animal Society says last year, U.S. shelters euthanized nearly 350,000 dogs and cats simply because they didn't have a safe place to call home. California, at the top for saving and killing. Volunteers urge people to step up and save a life.
It's our mission here at Wags and Walks to help change the perception of shelter dogs, because they're the best dogs in the world. So the more people will agree with us and try it and adopt and foster and volunteer, they'll realize that these shelter dogs are amazing and adopt them.
There's Sweet Aloe, the pit bull, who's about to go into labor any second. Same with Keeper, who volunteers just bathed and realized she's pregnant. This is Bozo and Gentle Ginger, Monet and Carlo. And then there are pitties like Juno, in isolation with kennel cough and a massive tumor, all awaiting rescue by their new best friend. They're someone to love.
Ziggy, say hi. This is my best friend.
2 cats are being killed for every dog in America's shelters. And so our pitty friends and our kitty friends need all the support they can get. They are angels from heaven.
We'll be right back with one final look at your forecast.
President.
Give you a first-hand look here of our road conditions. That's 7th and Range Line with the snow coming out sideways. Till that's partially covered at the intersection. That right there is I-44. My goodness, that is in between mile marker 6 and 7, just over the Oklahoma state line, headed up toward Joplin. You can tell hardly anybody out on the road, so at least that's a good thing. But I'd watch those exits especially, and that's way more snow cover than what we experienced at this point in time yesterday. Here's a look at the Skywatch Storm Tracker and our updated radar. We're finally beginning to taper off here snow-wise for the east and northern portions of the 4 states. We've been able to avoid any of the freezing rain down throughout central Arkansas, and by the time we get to sunrise, we'll see it taper off in the central portion as well. But down to the south, that's where it's going to linger, not only for the rest of the morning, but the afternoon and evening hours as well. We'll roll future track when we return right after this.
We're here to
Road conditions turn dangerous in Joplin as the winter storm continues to bring snow and ice.
Not to mention the wind blowing sideways right now over 7th and Range Line. Also, too, look at this shot from I-44. We're going to bebop around and take a look at those road conditions from the Skywatch Weather Center.
And we'll take a closer look at how some area agencies are helping the homeless during this extreme winter weather.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Good morning and welcome to the KOAM Morning News. It is 6 a.m. I'm Tanya Bach. We'll get to those stories in just a moment. But first, let's go to Michael Hayslip, so we know you're in the Skywatch Weather Center.
Yeah, and Tanya, I think the most important thing is to listen to what you said earlier. Stay off the roads, if at all possible, this morning. I know for everybody that some of you, that's not an option, but the safest thing to do is the fact that the snow's still coming down. The wind is causing some very, very impressive drifts over there. And Mother Nature kind of getting ahead of our road crews, even though they are doing the best that they can. Let's a live look over I-44. That's around mile marker 18, right by the 44-49 exchange. Even at this time on a normal morning, we would expect tons of traffic on this stretch of road. So at least everybody's heeding the warnings. But you can also tell that it's very slow moving, much more snow covered than what we experienced at this point in time yesterday as it continues to fall, especially down to the south and throughout eastern southwest Missouri. You'll notice on the west and northern portion of the 4 states, just about done as a matter of fact, very light snow. But our depth numbers in that dark blue, that's easily up to 8 inches. That middle color of blue, that 4 to 6. So we'll see that creep up around 7 inches. And also too, it is cold. Here's a look at our wind chill numbers, as low as 6 below 0 in Yates Center. Joplin's sitting right now at 3 below 0. And if you don't like the driving aspect of it, well, I'll tell you what, just the temperatures being that cold enough to stay inside and play it safe anyway. Here's our weather trend for the next 24. It's just going to be frigid all day long, so the snow and ice, quite frankly, aren't going to be able to go anywhere. And not only that, with the snow continuing down to the south, along and south of I-44, we're not going to be completely done with this until tomorrow morning.
All right. Well,
that's where we'll see the majority of our accumulation numbers increase today. It's definitely going to be down to the south. Far western counties, far northern counties, closer we get to sunrise, you're going to have some light snow and some blowing snow, certainly because of the wind, but just about done with the main event.
Yeah, and once the snow stops falling, we still have to deal with all that drifting, that wind blowing it.
You've got to drift outside of Television City, folks. It hits me right here.
Yeah. A lot of fun to drive through. All right, thanks, Michael. Well, this video comes out of the Fort Scott area. The earlier round of snow and ice left behind a few inches of precipitation there. So just a reminder, the safest thing you can do right now is to stay off the roads. From Nevada, Missouri comes this video. As you can see, communities up in the northern part of our viewing area have been experiencing a decent amount of snow. ODOT workers have been out making sure the roads are safe. ODOT is asking drivers to help keep the roads safe for those workers.
Those routes are, they're pretty much standard for every storm. The turnpike is handled by the Oklahoma Turnpike Authority, and the Will Rogers Turnpike has a crew for each end of the turnpike that will go out there and treat it as well.
Last week at the Cox-Barton County Hospital, preparations for the winter storm began last week. Some of those plans included transforming rooms at the Medical One Clinic into bedrooms for staff who may need to stay. They've also made space in the hospital as well for staff who feel it may be too dangerous to leave the hospital during the storm. Officials say they anticipated staff staying in the hospital overnight. Joplin road conditions have been bad and things have only gotten worse. Joplin Police Department wants people to remember a few things if you do have to get on the roads. One tip, only call 911 for emergency situations to reduce strain on emergency workers.
You're involved in a crash and of course there's injuries, please dial 911. That's the quickest way to get EMS, law enforcement to the scene as quickly as possible. We just ask that, if it's not an emergency situation, there are no injuries, just dial our non-emergency number, the 417-623-3131, and we'll make sure and get a call entered and get an officer there to you just as quickly as it can.
Another tip, increase your follow distance from what it normally is as you may have trouble braking. Also, begin braking earlier to guarantee you have enough time. With freezing temperatures comes the risk of hypothermia for those who have to be outside. The risk increases significantly for those who don't have a place to call home. Carthage Crisis Center and Water Gardens in Joplin are both open as warming centers and will remain open while it remains cold. Anyone outside for an extended period can suffer from hypothermia. Experts say one of the key warning signs is confusion or someone not acting like themselves. They add that alone is a danger, as the person suffering from hypothermia may not even be aware.
If you're just starting to get a little bit incoherent and you can get inside and get warmed up, that's excellent. But if you're not seeing significant changes or you're getting worse, definitely seek medical attention.
We'll have more on hypothermia risk and what the warming center means to one homeless man. On this date back in 2005, Alberto Gonzalez wins the Senate confirmation to become the nation's first Hispanic Attorney General. In a reflection of the split between Democrats and Republicans, the vote, 60-36, fell mostly along party lines. Much of the ideological split come from the Bush administration's handling of counterterrorism policies and whether those policies had led to the abuse of prisoners in Iraq. As controversy mounted and pressure from Democrats called for his resignation, on August 27, 2007, Alberto Gonzalez announced his resignation. He said, quote, "It has been one of my greatest privileges to lead the Department of Justice." 6:07.
All right, let's break down our winter storm warnings because we've got pretty good movement in these. One, in a positive aspect. The positive aspect being what we see out on the west and up to the northern counties because they've been allowed to expire. We don't have a winter storm warning. We don't even have a wind chill advisory like what they do through central Kansas. But now, watch the expiration time in the right-hand corner as we drop down into portions of northeast Oklahoma and also Benton County into northwest Arkansas. Ottawa, Delaware, Nowata, Washington. Those have all been extended until 3 a.m., an indicator that we're going to see the majority of the snow last in our southern counties. And really, it's indicative when you look at the Skywatch storm tracker, because right now that snow's just about done out to the west and to the north. Now, as we drop down to the south, it's going to keep on rolling up from the Tulsa area right along 44, not only for the afternoon hours. Watch this thing carry us all the way from Thursday night into Friday morning. So an additional 1 to 2 inches down to the south. I think the majority of Joplin will be spared that. But certainly South Joplin, and as you go south out of Joplin, say towards Seneca, yeah, you're going to have more snow for the afternoon and evening hours as well. Nobody's escaping the cold. Overnight lows, single digits, negative wind chills till we get to the weekend.
All right, that's a look at this morning's top stories and weather in our first 7 minutes. Coming up on the KOAM Morning News, Chef Anthony braves the cold to show us a brand new dish you don't want to miss. Plus, the world has seen its share of impacts from the COVID-19 pandemic, but one that hasn't gotten the consideration is the amount of medical waste generated because of it. And according to one new study, your genes may play a role in how well couples respond to therapy. We'll explain after the break. You're watching the KOAM Morning News. More real news in the morning. We'll be right back.
Family first. My dad used to tell us that.
Your Midwest Ford dealers and Downstream Casino Resort.
Topping Nation Watch this morning, airlines canceling thousands of flights as the powerful winter storm stretches from the southwest all the way up to New England. Video from St. Louis's Lambert International Airport, one of the airports leading the nation for flight changes yesterday, behind only O'Hare. O'Hare had 364 cancellations according to FlightAware. Denver and Detroit's airports accumulating cancellations, and in total, airlines canceling more than 2,300 flights yesterday. We've got another 400 alone this morning. That's going to end up being in the thousands. Airlines typically issue waivers, however, to let travelers rebook for free when severe weather does impact those operations. Here's some more footage from yesterday. There are not any cars heading east on a portion of I-70 in Missouri near Kansas City. Authorities shut down that stretch of road after several tractor trailers crashed on the snow-covered highways. At least one injury has been reported. Missouri Highway Patrol troopers on the scene. Cole County Public Works Department, that takes care of Jefferson City, Missouri, says to avoid driving at all costs because snow covering a thin layer of ice in central Mo. Also say you probably are not going to be able to see the pavement until Friday, as the superintendent of Cole County Public Works says it has a full crew of drivers for the first time in 14 months. Even with that full team, some of them started working 18-hour shifts on Wednesday. And at this hour, the mammoth winter storm has more than 100 million people under alert, stretching from the Rockies to New England. Daryl Forges is on the ground in a snow-covered Detroit. He has the latest.
A wintry mess, turning roads into a dangerous place to be. Slick roads, snarling traffic, and sending vehicles sliding into ditches.
If everything holds to where it is right now, this is the real deal. It is dangerous.
A monstrous winter storm spanning hundreds of miles across the country is unleashing dangerous ice and snow accumulations and dropping some places into a deep freeze, threatening to paralyze parts of the Midwest and the South.
The amount of potential ice accumulation could potentially result in the loss of power for a large number of Kentuckians.
In Texas, where nearly 250 people died after an ice storm crippled the state's power grid last year, they've been preparing for days.
After last year, I think us all Texans are kind of scared.
No one can guarantee that there won't be a, quote, load shed event. But what we will work and strive to achieve, and what we're prepared to achieve, is that the power is going to stay on across the entire state.
Traveling will be impossible in some places, leading to the cancellation of thousands of flights. And FedEx says the storm could impact shipping and delivery services, saying in a statement, quote, "Contingency plans are in place and we will be prepared to provide the best possible service in areas affected by the winter storm and as local conditions allow."
Earlier this week, animal advocates were patrolling Kansas City, ensuring dogs will be safe during the winter storm. Crews from the KC Pet Resource Center headed out with not only food, but also straw. The center says dog houses will not be enough to keep animals warm in this cold weather. Animals also, too, can develop frostbite, especially when they're wet. The center says crews were out yesterday and will be again today for as long as they can navigate those roadways. That's a look at today's top national stories. We'll be back with Chef Anthony right after this.
Welcome to Sonic. May I take your order?
Hero today.
Welcome back. We've got Chef Anthony from Pittsburgh High School joining us this morning, and we're making breakfast.
Yes, we are. Good Southwest omelet.
I love a good omelet, and I'm excited to see how you make them.
Oh, wonderful. We're going to do a classic French omelet this morning, and we have farm fresh eggs from our area, and we have beef this morning from Missouri beef producers.
Awesome.
Wonderful opportunity. This stuff is insanely good.
Okay.
So we'll start with 3 eggs. Give them a nice beat. Our pan is hot.
Yes, it is. Okay, you said these are farm fresh eggs.
Yes.
Where did you find them?
These come from Simon Market. These eggs actually came from Gerard, so they are really local.
Awesome.
He sells really good eggs. He has all of his necessary requirements to sell eggs, his egg tax, everything. It's beautiful. His products are insanely wonderful.
And he has them available year round?
Has them available year round.
Okay.
And they're some of the best eggs I have ever tasted in my life.
All right.
And I grew up on a ranch.
That's
cool.
Yeah.
His stuff is really good. Now our eggs are sitting in our pan. What we're going to do is walk around our spatula, just like so, and let the uncooked egg fall down.
Yes.
Underneath.
This is the tricky part when you're making an omelet, is keeping the edges from burning, but, you know, is this a nonstick pan that you're working with?
This is a nonstick pan.
Okay.
This is one straight out of my classroom. They're wonderful to use. They're easy, and you don't have to go out and buy the really expensive ones.
Mm-hmm.
I always tell my students that you should be able to fight off a burglar with a good pan without having to worry about it. So,
speaking of inexpensive pans, the one on your right here is one that we tested here on the morning show a couple of years ago. It's one of those as seen on TV nonstick pans, and I've noticed you used it last week and this week, and
I did. I kind of like
nothing
it.
sticks to it. It got the green light from us on that.
Good.
So we decided to keep it and use it for all our cooking segments.
Well, it's a beautiful pan. It keeps right on.
Yeah.
So I have salt, pepper, a little bit of garlic, steaks, onions, and peppers. I'm going to lay that right in here on half of our omelet.
Very good.
And then I'm going to take a little bit of cheese right over the top of that.
You cannot have an omelet without cheese.
Oh, no. And what's your favorite cheese inside of an omelet?
Oh, I've made them with pepper jack. That's pretty good. But I'm a big fan of spice, so.
I can understand that completely. Now comes the tricky part. This is where everybody always has their problem with making their omelet, because it's either I have an omelet or boom, I have scrambled eggs.
Right.
So,
and at this point, you have everything else in there, so it's
exactly.
like a scrambled casserole or something.
Right underneath of it, and lift your pan so that as you lift the egg, it folds right over on top of it.
Beautiful, and perfect coloring on the bottom there.
Yes, nice and golden brown and delicious. And we're going to give that just a minute for it to sit up and finish cooking together, and it just jiggles right on along.
Now, do you flip it one more time or call it good?
This is good, just like it is. We've moved most of the egg to the underside so it cooks and forms out a nice round form on the outside.
Yeah.
And you don't have to worry about non-uniformity in cooking. I'm a little raggedy around the edges, but that's what
Just
makes
a reminder,
omelets
for
good.
this size of pan, how many eggs did you work with?
3 eggs.
3 eggs.
Generally, when you go out to a restaurant, 3-egg omelet is the norm. You can get a 2-egg for most children's omelets, but 3 eggs is the normal for just about anywhere that you go. So I'm going to turn this omelet a little bit, so now that I can slide it right out of my pan, right onto my plate. And it's ready to go.
Awesome.
Real quick, real simple, real easy. You can make breakfast every day for everyone in the family in about 10 minutes.
Yeah, and it's one of those things that you can make everyone's the way they like it, because each one's is personalized. You're not dividing it up, so.
Exactly.
Perfect. Well, I'm going to try this. Hopefully I don't burn my mouth. While you tell us what we can expect to see on KOAM Morning News on Fox 14 when you return this morning.
Okay. Well, with the honor of the Super Bowl coming up so quickly, we're going to do classic Midwest fajitas. So we have local produced beef, we have local produce from the area, and I'm excited.
Okay, here we go. I went for a middle piece so I could get more than just egg. Okay.
Isn't that good? Mm-hmm. If you start your day every day like that, it's going to be a good day no matter what.
Who's had an apple a day? It's an egg a day.
It's an egg a day.
All right, thank you so much for braving the cold, and
I'm happy to
glad
do
you
it.
made it safely, because it's definitely got a lot of snow on the roads out there.
We do, but that's okay.
All right, well, I appreciate it, and we will be back with you on KOAM Morning News on Fox 14. See you soon.
The monster is back.
Lives.
Topping Health Watch this morning, the ongoing pandemic causing a medical waste crisis. You have people and healthcare workers from around the world constantly throwing away tons of masks, gloves, needles, and much, much more. Kevin Cork with more on how PPE and vaccine rubbish, as it's known, are contaminating the environment and what can be done to reduce that harm.
Health officials and scientific data say face masks and vaccines help save lives and ward off serious coronavirus complications. But a new report from the World Health Organization finds some of the things keeping us safe are also generating tens of thousands of tons of medical waste around the globe.
COVID-19 has increased healthcare waste loads in facilities to up to 10 times current volumes.
Besides piling up in landfills, discarded masks, needles, vaccine vials, gloves, and COVID tests are making their way into the environment, contributing to pollution and posing safety concerns for plants, animals, and people who may come into contact with them. But not all waste is created equal.
In terms of volume of waste, we actually found that gloves were a bigger volume than masks, which is rather interesting given that gloves are, for the most part, a non-essential PPE for COVID.
And while the sheer amount of pandemic-related garbage is concerning, officials say the crisis is amplified in poorer nations.
If you consider that 2 in 3 healthcare facilities in the least developed countries didn't have systems to segregate or safely treat waste before the pandemic, you can just imagine how much burden this extra waste load has put on healthcare workers, on surrounding communities.
WHO says solutions to combating medical waste include not using gloves when administering vaccines, making PPE packaging more sustainable, and also creating more usable masks. How well couples respond to therapy may come down to genetics. That's according to researchers in London and Denver, who found people with genes associated with higher sensitivity benefited the most from therapy that's designed to improve communication and prevent divorce. A new Stanford Lancet report projects opioids could kill more than 1.2 million people in the United States this decade. That projection if no action is taken to address the epidemic. Researchers made several recommendations, including tighter regulations on pharmaceutical industry and an end to incarcerations for those with addiction issues. Researchers at the Duke University School of Medicine say older people should feel reassured about undergoing general anesthesia during surgery. Their study found it's unlikely to increase a patient's risk of developing Alzheimer's disease in the future. That is a look at some of today's top health stories as you're watching the KOAM Morning News. Let's go to the Skywatch Storm Tracker. Take a look at the snow still coming down throughout portions of northeast Oklahoma. And of course, dominating from central down to the southern portion of southwest Missouri as well. It's been a while since we checked over 7th and Rangeline, so let's go there because remember, JPD, along with everybody else, urging you stay off the roads today if possible. We've got it coming down sideways still, so we have no reprieve as far as what we've seen all morning long. Let's take a live look at I-44. That's at mile marker 18 right there by the 44-49 exchange. Usually very, very busy this time of day. Now we hardly see any headlights and we see it looks like everybody just kind of inching along, if you will. Remember the winter storm warning in effect for our counties in pink, excuse me. That lasts all the way until midnight. We've lifted them for the west and the north, but at the same point in time, let's jump down here to northeast Oklahoma and Benton County, northwest Arkansas, because they've been extended all the way to 3 a.m. Now here's the reason behind that. You'll notice that while we're tapering off to the west and the north, watch the bottom of your screen here and everything rolls in from OKC and Tulsa. Their timeline takes us all the way from the afternoon through Thursday night into Friday morning. Another additional inch to 2 inches of snow along and south of I-44. And the temperatures, well, while some of you are going to escape the snow earlier than others, nobody's going to escape the cold. Highs today in the 20s, single-digit wind chills all day long. Overnight lows, single digits for Thursday and Friday. We'll be back right after this.
In 25 years.
Road conditions turn dangerous in Joplin as the winter storm continues to bring snow and ice.
There's a reason that winter storm warning lasts all the way until midnight. That's a live look over 7th and Rangeline. We got a ways to go, folks. We'll have the latest from the Skywatch Weather Center.
And we'll take a closer look at how some area agencies are helping the homeless during this extreme winter weather.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Good morning and welcome to the KOAM Morning News. It is 6:30. I'm Tanya Bach. We'll get to those stories in just a moment, but first, let's go to Michael Hayslip in the Skywatch Weather Center.
Not worth trying it, folks. Best thing to do is to stay inside today. I understand that we have some personnel that are required to be out and about, but certainly with the snow coming down sideways like that, covering our intersection at 7th and Rangeline in Joplin, best thing to do is to try and play it safe. There's a live look at I-44 normally this time of the morning. Of course, that would be bustling. Excuse me. That's right by the I-49 exchange. So that's our two major thoroughfares right there, just about where they meet. And you're hard pressed to see a pair of headlights every now and then, and that's a good thing. At least people are taking this seriously. Our satellite reading right now, while the snow is kind of given up for the west and the northern portion, we've still got it coming down at a very good clip, and we combine that with the 25 to 30 mile an hour gust of northeasterly winds that we have. Let's take a look at these snow depth numbers as we continue to increase our dark blue. That's going to be in between 6 to 8 inches, and that middle portion of blue 4 to 6. 4 to 6, pretty conservative amount. It's going to be a little bit hard to measure today because of the drifts that we're accumulating from this, but I'm looking at our most recent ones, 4.5, 5.5 inches, and like I said, that's in places where it's still snowing, so we got a ways to go. Also, don't forget, if you are interested about, hey, is my point of reference, what I want to do today, open? Well, all you have to do is go down here, open up your browser, go to KOAMnewsnow.com, and we have a complete list of closings. We've got organizations, churches, government offices, and perhaps most importantly, all of our college and schools who have decided to call it a day. As far as what we're going to see for the afternoon hours, remember, the snow does not want to give up down to the south. We'll put future track into motion. Watch the bottom of your screen here as it rolls up. In between Oklahoma City and Tulsa are kind of our culprits, if you will, feeding us that Gulf moisture that continues for tonight into Friday morning, winter storm warning. Winter storm warning lasting all the way until 3 a.m. Friday for northeast Oklahoma and northwest Arkansas.
Well,
I will say this compared to the reports that I'm picking up from yesterday. People are heeding your warning, Tanya. Our slide-offs, our actual reported accidents, those are down from yesterday. The conditions worse, but those reports going down. So people are taking it seriously.
What I noticed driving in, at 4 o'clock this morning, it wasn't the ice that was the problem at that point, unless there was hidden ice that you always needed to be aware of.
Sure.
But it was just the drifts, and
you
never knew when you were going to hit a mound of snow that would jerk you one way or the other.
And almost gives you that feeling of vertigo because you get so locked into the road and that wind blowing that snow like this, it's almost hard to keep your concentration as well.
Yeah, my neck was a little stiff when I got in from...
Oh, white knuckle driving, I completely understand, yeah.
Definitely. All right, thanks, Michael. Well, this video comes out of the Fort Scott area. The earlier round of snow and ice left behind a few inches of precipitation there. So just a reminder, the safest thing you can do right now is to stay off the roads. From Nevada, Missouri comes this video. As you can see, communities in the northern part of our viewing area have been experiencing a decent amount of snow. ODOT workers have been out making sure the roads are safe, and ODOT is asking drivers to help keep the roads safe for the workers.
They're pretty much standard for every storm. The turnpike is handled by the Oklahoma Turnpike Authority, and the Will Rogers Turnpike has a crew for each end of the turnpike that will go out there and treat it as well.
Last week at the Cox-Barton County Hospital, preparations for the winter storm began. Some of those plans included transforming rooms at the Medical One Clinic into bedrooms for staff who may need to stay. They've also made space in the hospital as well for staff who feel it may be too dangerous to leave the hospital during the storm. Officials say they anticipated staff staying in the hospital overnight. Joplin road conditions have been bad and things have only gotten worse. The Joplin Police Department wants people to remember a few things if you do have to get on the roads. One tip, only call 911 for emergency situations to reduce strain on emergency workers.
Crash and of course there's injuries, please dial 911. That's the quickest way to get EMS, law enforcement to the scene as quickly as possible. We just ask that, if it's not an emergency situation, there are no injuries, just dial our non-emergency number, the 417-623-3131, and we'll make sure and get a call entered and get an officer there to you just as quickly as we can.
Another tip, increase your follow distance from what it normally is, as you may have trouble braking. Also, begin braking earlier to guarantee you have enough time. With the extreme cold, hypothermia is a significant concern for anyone outdoors, especially the homeless. KOAM's Chris Warner tells us what some of the warning signs are and how local shelters are helping out.
The extreme cold can lead to a number of medical issues, including hypothermia. Luke Spain with Cox Health says while the signs can vary quite a bit, there are key symptoms to watch out for.
Really serious signs of hypothermia are going to include things like loss of memory, fumbling things, poor coordination. People become quite self-unaware, if you will. So they're not really going to notice a lot of those things happening. So it's really important to catch those kinds of signs early.
Spain adds there are some steps you can take to stay safe if you have to be outdoors.
Wrapping up, wearing layers. The layers is really important. Wool, things that are going to keep you warm. Cover your hands, cover your head, cover your neck. Wearing a scarf, wearing a hat, wearing gloves are all really important things, and stay dry.
Spain says it's also important to know when to seek medical attention.
If you're just starting to get a little bit incoherent and you can get inside and get warmed up, that's excellent. But if you're not seeing significant changes or you're getting worse, definitely seek medical attention.
That's why warming centers like watered gardens are essential.
When the temperatures get that low, it's just impossible to stay warm outside, impossible to find shelter to keep yourself warm. Even if you got several layers of clothes and blankets, you're not going to get warm in this kind of temperatures. So this is really, this is about survival and about keeping people alive.
Watered Gardens opens their lobby when the wind chill drops below 20 degrees, and it remains open 24 hours a day until warmer weather moves in, which is something those in the homeless community like William McGully really appreciate.
It's awesome. It's real good, like on days like this where your shoes get wet and you can't get warm after you get wet.
In Joplin, Chris Warner, KOAM News.
The Carthage Crisis Center is also open as a 24-hour warming center. The Salvation Army in Joplin is also open as a warming center during its regular hours of operation. Well, this date back in 1959 marks the day the music died, when 3 young and up-and-coming rock and rollers died in a plane crash. Remember them, Michael? Buddy Holly at age 22, JP, the Big Bopper Richardson, age 24, and the youngest of the 3, Richie Valens, who was only 17 years old, died in a tragic plane crash shortly after taking off in Clear Lake, Iowa. The 3 were poised to become superstars, with Elvis in the Army, Chuck Berry in trouble with the law, and controversy surrounding Jerry Lee Lewis. The 2 short lives and careers of Valens and Holly were dramatized in the movies La Bamba and the Buddy Holly Story. And Don McLean, remember this, makes reference to the day the music died in his song, American Pie.
So Waylon Jennings, the one who did not get on the plane.
Oh.
Yes.
I forgot about that.
Yes, traded seats, did not get off the plane, and then a number of the people that would perform in the Crickets with Buddy Holly, they've put on a number of shows down at the Coleman Theater in Miami. And so it kind of, I'm not a direct 4-state tie, but I've had the opportunity to talk to them and their recollections about that day. And yeah, I think I got so caught up with the weather that no, that did not cross my radar. So thank you for bringing
February
that up.
3rd. February 3rd. Yeah.
Winter storm warning for our counties in pink until midnight. Here we go on the radar. We're starting to see it to actually, I don't want to say come to an end. I think taper off is still a better way to put it for our west and our north, because with the snow, it's still going to blow off roofs, it's going to blow off buildings, it's going to feel like it's still snowing for most of the day. And then for tonight, northeast Oklahoma, south of I-44 for southwest Missouri and northwest Arkansas. Don't try to go south tonight, folks. It's not worth it. And just bundle up, because the layers are going to be needed all the way to the weekend.
Michael. That's a look at our top news stories coming up this half hour in the KOAM Morning News. The high expectations of Meta fall short as the Facebook parent company's stocks drop more than 20%. Will that slide continue? We take a look. Plus, as tensions and troops continue to build on the Ukraine border, we want to know if you think diplomacy still has a chance to succeed. We let you weigh in. We'll be right back.
At US Cellular, we're local, so we're on.
In Consumer Watch this morning, stocks moved higher on Wednesday. The Dow rallied 224 points. The NASDAQ added 71. The S&P 500 gained 42. Shares of Facebook parent Meta platform skidded more than 20% in after-hours trading. Social media giant's quarterly report fell short of analyst expectations. Company says profit fell to $10.2 billion on revenue of $33.6 billion. Meta lost users for the first time ever, and it's projecting weaker revenue for this quarter. Natural gas futures surged to double digits yesterday as a major winter storm moves in. From Texas to the Northeast, more than 100 million people are under weather alerts this week. The storm could disrupt production as demand rises, causing prices for Americans to spike. And the White House wants the Postal Service to reconsider buying new gas-powered vehicles. Last year, the USPS announced it would be purchasing more than 150,000 delivery trucks. The Environmental Protection Agency sent a letter to the Postal Service asking it to reconsider in hopes the future fleet will be electric. The USPS said in a statement that it is, quote, willing to accelerate the pace of electrification if a solution can be found to do so that is not financially detrimental to the Postal Service. Understandable. That's it for Consumer Watch. Let's go over to Michael for something to talk about.
Thank you, Tanya. This morning on the KOAM News Now Facebook page and our morning Instapoll, talking about the situation that's going on the Russia-Ukraine border. As thousands of U.S.-based troops are leaving Fort Bragg, North Carolina, to head to Germany and Poland, while the Pentagon placed more than 8,000 U.S. troops on heightened alert. The White House assured Russia that the moves are not based on any new signs of Russian aggression. Our question to you this morning, do you think the Russia-Ukraine situation can be solved with diplomacy? And right now, 2/3 of you, 67%, say no. You do not see that happening in the near future. 3 ways to connect with us each and every morning. You can go directly to the poll, KOAMnewsnow.com/vote. Also, connect to us via Facebook at KOAM News Now, or if you've got your phone handy, all you have to do is snap a picture of our QR code, and that will take you there each and every morning. We're going to come back and celebrate birthdays and anniversaries, but first, a trip to the Big Apple where we check in with Nate.
Ahead and first on CBS Mornings, former Dolphins head coach Brian Flores joins us to discuss his lawsuit accusing the NFL of racism in its hiring process for coaches. Hear why he's risking his future in football and what he hopes the lawsuit will accomplish. Plus, we meet a Broadway actor on a mission to give out free tickets to his show, paying it forward 15 years after a stranger did the same thing for him. All of that and more. We'll see you at 7.
Come hungry to the SEK Humane Society.
We take this time to honor today's 4-state hero, Bob Kalbach of Joplin, Missouri. Kalbach served as a machinist mate for the U.S. Navy in the early 1950s. To Bob Kalbach, we thank you. Today's 4-state hero.
Start off with a big number 1, goes by the name of Gentry Trout right there. Gentry, a very happy birthday to you. Probably don't have the molars yet to get to Big Ed's, but when old enough, we will treat Gentry for a future birthday in Thayer.
All right, and Rance Keating turning 5 years old this year in Fulton, Kansas. Hope it's a great birthday for you.
We got C-squared, Colton Cunningham chiming in at age number 7. Colton, a very happy birthday to you.
All right, and a happy birthday from Aunt Jennifer and Grandma Patty going out to Brody Matson. Welcome to the teenage years, Brody, in Columbus.
Built the Columbus Titan pride right there. I like that picture. Emily Reed. She is celebrating her 23rd. We had parties in Thayer today. That's impressive. Emily, a very happy birthday to you in Thayer.
All right, and we've got Marilyn Locke turning 75 years old in Chanute.
Is there a story behind her?
Yeah, okay, so what I understand, and I understand this might have happened before today's weather, but rumor has it she might have taken a drive on 75 highway with her friend. And they might have reach speeds of up to 75.
Now wait a second. If you get far north enough on 75, I think you actually can legally. Because I had to take that trip for a school function.
Well, 69 sure does, so why can't 75?
Right. I'm going to pretend Maryland was on that stretch of highway where it's perfectly legal.
Yes, of course.
Perfectly legal.
All right.
Hugh Maddox is celebrating his 98th birthday today. And Mr. Maddox, he is a resident at Webwood Assisted Living in Neosho. Now, Mr. Maddox is originally from Golden City, but for everybody out at Webwood, I want you to find Mr. Maddox. Let's practice our social distancing and wish him a huge birthday.
All right, we've got Mr. Brent York celebrating birthday number 58 in Lawton, Kansas.
Kind of looks, that face kind of looks familiar. Huh, how about that?
Yeah, why would that be, Michael?
That would be the father of our own graphic artist, Will York. Will, you do look like your dad, man. That is crazy. Mr. York, you've done a fine job raising your son. We are lucky to have him, and a very happy birthday to you. We got a Who Dat Is on the board.
Hey, it's Bronte's birthday.
That is our own Bronte Sorotsky. Bronte, a very happy birthday. I don't know if you're reporting, if you're helping us out with weather coverage today, but if you are, please be safe. And from all of us here at KOAM and Fox 14, Bronte, very happy birthday wishes.
All right, happy
Got one to
birthday.
pass along. I'm going to give Miss Barbara Simpson a screen all to herself because she deserves it as she celebrates her 71st birthday. Barbara, happy birthday in Scammon. A happy birthday and happy anniversary to all. Here's Tanya Bach with a very important birthday announcement.
That's right. You can be a part of the KOAM Birthday Club by going to our website and signing up. And once you do, you'll get special deals from local businesses. Go to KOAMnewsnow.com and sign up for the KOAM Birthday Club today.
Coming up when we transition over to Fox 14, a story you are not going to want to miss because there are guns that are untraceable and they are unregistered. They're known as ghost guns, Tanya, but guess what? They're all too real. That and more coming up on the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14. We'll be back right after this.
TV.
Here's a check of today's top headlines, the news you need to know before you head out the door. This video comes out of the Fort Scott area. The earlier round of snow and ice left behind a few inches of precipitation there. So just a reminder, the safest thing you can do right now is stay off the roads. From Nevada, Missouri comes this video. As you can see, communities up in the northern part of our viewing area have been experiencing a decent amount of snow. Joplin road conditions have been bad and things have only gotten worse. The Joplin Police Department wants people to remember a few things if you do have to get on the roads. One tip, only call 911 for emergency situations to reduce strain on emergency workers. With freezing temperatures comes the risk of hypothermia for those who have to be outside. The risk increases significantly for those who don't have a place to call home. Carthage Crisis Center and Watered Gardens in Joplin are both open as warming centers and will remain open while it remains cold. Anyone outside for an extended period can suffer from hypothermia. Experts say one of the key warning signs is confusion or someone not acting like themselves, and they add that alone is a danger as the person suffering from hypothermia may not even be aware. That's a check of today's top headlines, the news you need to know before you head out the door.
Tanya, I'm going to run through some numbers really fast. Parsons sitting at 5 inches. That was at 11 o'clock last night. So, yeah, that was at 11 o'clock last night. Barton County in Missouri, 7 inches. We've got 6-inch drifts in Pittsburgh. That's a very conservative number. You and I have both seen that with our own eyes.
Waist high some places.
South Coffeyville, 5 inches. And also, while not in our viewing area, this is not a joke. This is a result of our cold temperatures and this winter storm. Lake Oolga, lake effect snow. We usually, associate that with the Great Lakes. Lake effect snow in Lake Oolga. That's where we stand right now on the Skywatch Storm Tracker, and that snow south of I-44 is going to dominate pretty much all day long. That's why even after the majority of our winter storm warnings expire at midnight down to the south through northeast Oklahoma and northwest Arkansas, they do not expire until 3 a.m. Temperatures stuck in the teens all day long. Single-digit wind chills. Watch the snow south of the interstate last until Friday morning. And even when the snow is done, the winter cold will not leave us alone until we get to next week.
All right, well, coming up today at noon, we've got the perfect dish in the Mr. Food Test Kitchen. On a day like this, we're making beef stroganoff.
Or some of those omelets. Do we know what Chef Anthony's making?
Yes, he's making fajitas with us.
Oh my gosh. we're a tad bit spoiled. Your morning news continues on KOAM. We've got the CBS Morning News coming up next as the NFL faces new fallout after a former coach accuses the league of racist hiring practices. That's next on CBS Mornings. Why a second former coach may join Brian Flores' lawsuit.
Or you can switch on over with us on Fox 14 where your only local morning news continues. And of course, we've got Chef Anthony joining us to make fajitas. And we'll show you how one company is dealing with employees failing to get their booster shot.
Plus, trash talk takes on a whole new level when one friend resorts to using a billboard, all because of a fishing trip.
Oh.
All right, stick with us. We'll see you over on Fox 14. I want everybody to try to stay warm Thursday. More importantly, do us a favor. Be safe. We'll do this all again tomorrow morning.
Today's Pledge of Allegiance is brought to you by Garfield Elementary in Parsons, Kansas.